Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Alyosha Society, where we're pursuing truth and beauty and goodness through great literature. This is video number 2 out of 5 total that we're doing on the Epic of Gilgamesh. In the first video, we did some introductory material. We talked about the literary toolbox, biographical context, historical context, and we also talked about the genre and how learning how to use these tools in the literary toolbox will help you get way more out of a work of literature. And watch out. Oh, yes, it'll happen to even you. You'll actually start to enjoy what you're reading. So let's dive in. We are going to get into the story in this video, but let's see what we've got. Okay, here's our outline of videos. I told you I'm going to try to make a point to show you the outline of videos in every video so you know what the big picture roadmap is. If you haven't already done it, I'm going to remind you from the previous video. Please watch the video. I should have posted it somewhere. It's out there. It's on my YouTube channel if you can't find it anywhere else. But I should have directed you, and I did direct you, to watch a video called 7 Reasons for Studying Literature. And then before going through this particular video, you should have read tablets 1 through 3. Mr. Eder, what are you talking about? Why aren't they called chapters? Because they were written on tablets. Friends, this is old stuff. Have you ever seen the Flintstones? Okay, sorry. No. Erase that. We'll edit that out. All right, so a few things I want to go over with you before we get into the story. First of all, remember what we looked at in the previous video. Where in the world are we? Well, we're in a region known as Mesopotamia. It's also known as Babylon or ancient Babylon. Look down there towards the south where you see the word Sumer, and you'll see the city of Ur. That's where Abraham was from. And you'll see the city of Uruk, which is where Gilgamesh was from. And it just so happens that they probably lived at about the same time. And we've already talked about just how cool that kind of is and what that might tell us, not only about the kind of culture and lifestyle and paganism that Abraham was called out of, but that it is possible that they could have either known each other or even known about each other. And guys, they're 2 fairly prominent figures living fairly close together. But we don't know. Do you also remember what current country takes up this landmass? Yeah, if I had my modern map to do the overlay, yes. For those of you who said Iraq, you got it. Yeah, this is basically the modern day country of Iraq. So when we say ancient Babylon, that's modern day Iraq. When we say ancient Persia, which we haven't yet, but we're going to be talking about Persia a ton in this course. When we say ancient Persia, we're talking about modern day Iran. I want you to know those two connections, those 2 parallels. Ancient Babylon, modern day Iraq. Ancient Persia, modern day Iran. What else did we talk about in the previous video? Historical context. There's our timeline. And there's Abraham, and there's Gilgamesh. Now, friends, remember, when you're studying ancient history, sometimes you have to be very general about the dates, okay? We simply don't know. We can't say, well, this happened on April the 3rd, 2141. Okay, there might be some things that we can narrow down that much, but for the most part, we're ballparking it. We're ballparking it here. So there you go. I want you to know those dates. Do you remember the acronym that I taught you to learn about what an epic is? Epic is the genre of the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's kind of sort of given away in the title. But what is an epic? Ba-bam. Yeah, an extremely long poem, EP, with an incredible hero highlighting a culture. E-P-I-C. Extremely, poem, incredible, culture. Now, friends, that's going to be true when we get to Homer. That's going to be true when we get to Virgil. And that will continue to be true even as we go all the way up to John Milton and study Paradise Lost or Dante's Divine Comedy. Yeah, it's a good thing to know. Now, before we get into the story, I need to introduce you to a few individuals. I call them, I was getting ready to say to some of my friends, but they're not my friends. Okay, they wish. No, seriously, the gods of ancient Mesopotamia, because they're gonna show up in here, and you may be more familiar with Greek and Roman gods, like Zeus or Aphrodite or Hermes, but you may not be as familiar with these gods. So let's get to know them. Anu. Anu is kind of like the Zeus of the ancient Babylonians. He's sort of the god of the heavens, the heavenly realm. That's Anu. And we'll be talking about him. The Anunnaki, boy, I'm trying to find equivalents here, but I don't want to mislead. I'm trying to find a place to put myself. They are, the offspring of Anu. So you might kind of sort of look at the Anunnaki as the Olympian gods, might be the Greek equivalent. But that's not exactly accurate. So just when you see the word Anunnaki, that's plural. That means a bunch of gods, and they are the gods who spring forth from Anu. Okay. Now, this one's an important one in this story. She, yeah, that's a she, Ishtar, is sort of like the Aphrodite equivalent, goddess of love, or for the Romans, Venus. That's Ishtar, goddess of love. Also war, sometimes called Irnini, but I think she's mostly called Ishtar here. Aruru. Aruru is the goddess of birth or fertility. Shamash, sun god, Helios, okay, to the Greeks. Enlil. Enlil's going to come up several times here. God, or you could even think of Enlil as the essence of order. So specifically, this would almost be like the fates. Remember the three fates from Greek and Roman mythology? One of them holds out the yarn and the other one measures it and the other one snips it. They're controlling your life. You don't really have control. The fates control life and death and destiny. That's Enlil. Ninurta, god of war, not going to come up a lot, but mentioned briefly. Sumukan, the god of cattle. Nisaba, the goddess of grain. Again, maybe only one or two references, but I want you to know who these are. So what you can do, guys, is maybe take a screenshot, write these down, whatever you want to do, so that you have this list. And then you can maybe put that on maybe like a bookmark or something. Keep that in your copy. So as you read it, then boom, bam. Ooh, Enlil, who's that? You got it on your bookmark. Just one of those little tricks, make reading a little bit more enjoyable. Then Ea is the god of earth, also water and the abyss. So maybe a little bit of Gaia and or Hades. Again, there aren't necessarily, perfect parallels and equivalents with the Greek or Roman gods, but Adad, the storm god. So there you have it, friends. Pause me, take a screenshot, get these down so you know who they are as you're reading the story. Now, usually this means we're done. When you see this slide pop back up, it means, oh, we're done. Hey, don't act so happy. Okay, that hurts just a little bit. It hurts my feelings. No, I'm just kidding. Well, what this means is that for the rest of this video, I'm going to be getting away from slide land and coming to talk land. so we can start in the story. But I do want to just show you that you need to read tablets 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Sounds like a lot, but it's really not. Before you watch video number 3, okay? Before you watch video number 3. Let's dive in. Now, you see, friends, how much work we've done before we even start reading the book. We've used our literary toolbox. See, we're framing the house. You don't start putting the roof on first. All right, you got to get the foundation, the frame, the skeleton, the outline, and the plans. We've looked at biographical context, historical context, genre questions. Yes, it's frustrating because this work is so ancient, we can't come up with answers that are as satisfying as we would like, but we did the best we could. So let's get into the story. From the beginning of the story, you can see Gilgamesh is described as a powerful and really kind of a scary person. He built Uruk. I'm in the 4th couplet. So when I say couplet, you know what I mean by that, right? That means like a twofer, like 2 lines together, that's a couplet. 2 couplets is 4 lines, okay? 4th couplet, he built Uruk. He built the keeping place of Anu and Ishtar. Who's Anu and Ishtar? I already told you. God of the heavens and the God of love and war, remember? So Uruk is the city, southern Mesopotamia, and we learn here that Gilgamesh is the mighty king of this great city. And not only that, that he built temples to the highest, greatest, and most powerful of the gods. This is Uruk, the city of Gilgamesh. Now, if you happen to have the version I have, I may be mentioning page numbers, but I'm not going to assume that you have this version. That, you know, there's probably a lot of different versions out there. So I'm just going to kind of sort of tell you what tablet we're in and what couplet. Now, we learn at the end of little Roman numeral 1 here that Gilgamesh is not a mere mortal. He's not a mere man. He's a little bit more than a man, but a little bit less than fully God. We learn at the end of Roman numeral 1 that he's 2/3 a god, 1/3 a man. 2/3 God. So he's, you know, when we think about the deity of Jesus Christ, as Christians, we look at the Bible and we see that Jesus is half God and half man. Just seeing if you're paying attention. Jesus is not half God and half man. That's not what we believe. We believe that Jesus is fully God and fully man. So he's 100% God, he's 100% man. Do I understand how that works? Absolutely not. That's way above my pay grade. Okay? But Gilgamesh is somehow divided up. He's 2/3 God and 1/3 man. Now, we learn in the next section that the people of Uruk are upset. They're sad because Gilgamesh is doing something that's making them sad. Let's read. There was no withstanding the power of the wild ox Gilgamesh, neither the father's son nor the wife of the noble, neither the mother's daughter nor the warrior's bride was safe. What in the world are they talking about? Why are the people upset? And what does it have to do with all these women? Well, friends, in the ancient world, well, I guess it continued even into perhaps parts of the medieval world. And I don't know, maybe there's some crazy places on the planet where it still exists today, where a practice, an absolutely disgusting cultural practice took place. And it went something like this. Anytime a man was getting married, of course, the night of the wedding would be the consummation of the marriage. That's when the man and the woman, as the Bible says in Genesis chapters 2 and 3, become one flesh. They have a physical relationship, sexual relationship. Well, in some cultures in the ancient world, the king had the power to basically say, anytime anybody's get married, I get the bride first. I get to spend the first night with her. Then she can go and be with her husband. Disgusting, gross, inappropriate, ungodly. But that some cultures were like that. And so the people of Uruk are crying out to the gods because Gilgamesh is taking advantage of this cultural practice where it doesn't matter if your aunt is getting married, Gilgamesh gets her the first night. If it's your sister, Gilgamesh. Cousin, Gilgamesh. Even let's say that your father had passed away and your mother remarries, Gilgamesh. So the people cry out to the gods and they say, help us. We don't like this. He's completely sexually abusing all of our women. And they cried out to the gods. Next page. They called to the goddess Aruru, saying to her, you made this man, Gilgamesh. Now create another. Create his double and let the two contend. So what they're basically praying is, our Babylonian gods, please create another man, another being of some kind that would be the equal of Gilgamesh so that he could come and stop him, or at least get his mind off our girls and our wives. You see what's going on. So they cry out to the gods and they answered. The gods then created, middle of that same page, well, in my book, Aruru listened and created out of the earth clay and divine spittle. Notice how there are some similarities with the biblical account, a human or something being created out of the dust of the earth. We'll talk about why that is later, why all these parallels with biblical. Stormy-hearted other Enkidu. So the gods created this being. When I say being, I mean because he wasn't a normal human being. It says here that he was hairy, that he was wild, that he was extremely powerful as Ninurta, okay, the god of war. He feeds upon the grasslands with the gazelles, and he visits the watering places with. So whatever this Enkidu was, it was sort of half animal, half man, but scary. You know, you're going to have something like that to stand up against the king of Uruk Gilgamesh so that he'll get away from our women. And that's what happens. Now, over the next several pages, I'm kind of going to skim a little bit. There's some kind of rated R material, so, beware, adult warning here, parental advisory, if you want to call it that. The Enkidu hasn't met up with Gilgamesh yet and is going to sort of kind of be tamed by a harlot. A harlot is a prostitute. And by that physical encounter, we have this theme, which is going to recur in other places, we'll talk about it later, of the wildness of the male being tamed by the physical connection with the female. I don't really want to get into that. It's not really what I call a primary theme in the book anyway. But here's what happens. A couple of pages over, and we're going to get into tablets 2 and 3. At the end of tablet 1, Gilgamesh has a dream, and his mother speaks into him a little bit about what the dream could possibly mean. Is there a foreshadowing here? What's going to happen? And it's pointing to the events that are going to be coming up. So what are those events? Tablets 2 and 3. This reminds me of a scene that happened frequently. I went to public school, and often one big, huge, tough dude would start, tough, rough talking some other tough dude, and he would say something about his mom. And then everyone would go tell the other guy, hey man, Billy said something about your mom. And then Billy would get upset and he would say something about Jimmy's mom. It was always, the mom, that's across the line. And then these two just beefed out, huge, scary guys would come walking down opposite ends of a very long hallway with a mass of humanity around them, because everybody knew there was going to be a fight. There's going to be a big fight, and everybody will get excited. And you'd see these two mobs of humanity, and then they would meet up and they'd form a big, huge circle, and Billy and Jimmy would just duke it out. One time I remember this happened. I remember exactly where I was standing. I was standing right next to Miss Rupp's classroom, my high school Bible teacher. And it was very unfortunate because Dr. Rubenstein, I know, he didn't really speak English very well, spoke German, I think it was. Dr. Rubenstein, who was about 147 years old at the time and about 5'2", made the mistake of getting in the middle of Billy and Jimmy. And God rest his soul. I'm just kidding. He didn't die from it. He lost his glasses. It was a little violent. That's what's happening here. Gilgamesh and Enkidu start to hear about each other. Gilgamesh starts hearing, what? There's this new beast, this new being that thinks he's as powerful as I am? Enkidu, what? There's some man who is the king of Uruk and thinks he's blah, blah. And then they come and they fight. I'm reading it, little Roman numeral 3 in tablets 2 and 3. Stormy heart struggled with stormy heart, and as Gilgamesh met Enkidu in a rage, you see, this is like WWF SmackDown, guys. Both dudes, 300-pounders, beefed up, no body fat, just pure muscle. It's like two Incredible Hulks just rolling around and punching and scrapping and beating each other. It's like, the battle of the centuries. So what ends up happening? Enkidu says, you are the strongest of all, the perfect, the terror. So Enkidu kind of backs down. The lady Wilkal Ninsun bore no other. Enlil has made you sovereign over the city. So it's sort of like this. My friends and I used to do this a lot growing up. You beat the heebie-jeebies out of each other, and then you kind of high-five each other and go away and have fun doing something else. Now, girls don't behave that way. Girls scratch out each other's eyeballs and they never talk to each other for the rest of their lives. Boys don't really do that. We beat each other up and we say, dude, that was an awesome punch. Like when you landed that uppercut on my chin, I was like, whoa, that was like serious respect, man. That's what happens. Enkidu and Gilgamesh embraced and kissed and took each other by the hand. Now, at this point, Gilgamesh and Enkidu, they have respect for each other because they fought, and it was kind of a tie. I guess Gilgamesh kind of sort of beat him, but they respect each other. Now they become besties. But the people don't care because their prayers were still answered in that Gilgamesh is not messing with their girls anymore. Now, at this point, Gilgamesh and Enkidu go on what I call their excellent adventures. And they go traipsing around and they're running through the woods and climbing trees and building tree houses, probably uprooting trees with their bare teeth eating them. I don't know what they're doing. They end up killing some of these huge, scary, demonic beasts roaming through the woods. One of them is called Huwawa. So the two warriors went to the armor makers who made them weapons. Somebody put weapons into their hands. That's sort of like the Hephaestus. The Greek god Hephaestus is, makes armor. So now they have armor. Now they are virtually invincible. And so we're going to end our story right there at the end of tablet 3, where the people's prayer has been answered. Get Gilgamesh away from our girls. Gilgamesh and Enku have duked it out, and they've become best buddies. And they're going on their excellent adventures, just like Bill and Ted. And they are conquering beasts and having a big old time. Where in the world is this story going to go from there? Because some of you are thinking, Mr. Eder, you said in the previous video that you always wear a shirt that is somehow connected to the story. And the reason I'm wearing blue is because this story has a flood account in it, a flood story. Water, blue, flood, blue shirt. But wait a second. There's no, just hang on. This is only video 2 out of 5 total. Okay, just take a chillax. We'll get to it. I'll be back with my blue shirt in video number 3 out of 5 total. And eventually we will look at an absolutely fascinating flood account and line it up with the biblical account. But that's all coming later. I'll see you guys in video number 3. Remember, you need to read tablets 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 before watching the next video. And please be sure that you've watched the video 7 Reasons to Study Literature. See you later, guys.